Hey everyone, how's it going? So as you remember, on Thursday I picked up some books. Um, I have that stack here in front of me, and today I'm doing the reviews. I know I said already that I was going to have the reviews up on Sunday, but you're getting them a day early because I felt like it. Um, First book I'm going to be talking about is The Immortal Hulk, issue 2. Issue 1 was my pick of the week. The 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 week that came out. Um, this book is a severe downgrade from that. It does feel like these issues are like one and done stories, but it feels like this storyline could have been expanded a bit more, and like the issue starts off with Bruce Banner in the middle of a nightmare, and he wakes up on a bus, and he's being plagued with visions of the Hulk. So he decides, and we see that Bruce Banner is like living the life of a homeless man. Basically, he can't like the money that he has isn't on him very long. The clothes that he has, they rip every time that he turns into the Hulk. So he basically has no possessions that he calls his own. He's just a guy like walking on the highways and byways of America, kind of not too dissimilar from the Bill Bixby, Lou Ferrigno TV series. So that I like, but it's when he gets into this town and they keep on telling him of like this like this chain of grief that's killing off members and townsfolk from this area that he's visiting. So he goes to the cemetery and finds out that one of the bodies has been like radioactively tampered with. Like like the body is giving off like severe radiation to the point where anyone who goes within a certain distance of it dies. And it all came from the deceased person's father, who did scientific research or did tests on his son, not unlike the tests that were done on Bruce Banner when he was a child by his father. And the issue did very much remind me of it. It's trying to take the best parts of the 2003 Hulk movie and translate that into comic book form, and it doesn't really work at all. It's very slow, and when the Hulk's there, there isn't much impact. We don't feel that the Hulk is strong. We don't feel that he's menacing. We don't have the Hulk. This title is sold to us as a horror, as a psychological horror, and it does have that kind of impact. Like, it's all very macabre. Like, it's very dim. There's hardly any light anywhere. Like, all of the panels are very dark, and most of this, even when there is light, it's very dim and it's very dull. And most of the comic takes place during night, but there isn't like any. There's a lot of build up and there's a lot of suspense, but there's no like big entrance. There's no big reveal or anything. It's all just kind of. I don't know if that's the artist's fault, that maybe they should have got someone like Clayton Crane on this if they wanted to go with that kind of style, but I don't know. I just didn't really enjoy this. It kind of, to say the least, it kind of bored me, and that's the last thing that I want a comic book to do. The next book that I'm going to be talking about is no surprise to many of my viewers. It's Hunt for Wolverine Weapon Lost, number 3. The previous 2 issues of this ranked similarly lowly, apart from the first issue, which I think was my pick of the week that week, only because I only picked up 2 comics that week. But yeah, this was not good. Better than the previous issue, not by a lot, but it was somewhat better. The way this started was very well done, because basically this internal monologue from Matt Murdock, basically saying, in the line of work that he's in, you know, being a superhero, being a vigilante, you see a lot of death, and sometimes you get lucky. And Cypher, who we all thought was dead at the end of the last issue, isn't dead. He's he should be by all intents and purposes, but it's a comic book, so of course he's not dead. Or if he were dead, they'd probably have him back by the next panel. But yeah, but they still have this. They still have the problem that this Wolverine variant, which gets revealed that this is Albert, the cyborg Wolverine, who has been killing people in the woods, and he's got his eyes set on Daredevil and his crew. So they have themselves a little fight. It's shown that Albert is eventually killed by Cypher, who has this badass looking gun, and the rest of the comic is just talking. It's half action, and then the rest of it is just talking. It's implied, not even implied, like Frank McGee and Misty Knight are about to do the business, and then Cypher walks in on them and decides to show them that he's found something. So the team heads back to Chicago to find that one of the previous leads that they had on Wolverine last issue led them back to a apartment where there was a bomb that, of course, blows up, and it looks like everyone in there died. Of course they didn't. Of course they're alive. Like, they're not going to kill off Daredevil. At least not yet. At least not in a mini-series. But yeah, this is probably the middle of the road when it comes to these Hunt for Wolverine titles. There's another one that I'm going to be reviewing shortly, but the other one was a lot better. It's neither bad nor good. It's just average, and an average comic book is probably the worst for me, because it means I can't really dig into a lot of criticisms, but I can't really praise it highly either. Next up is Thor number 2. I really enjoyed the last issue of this. This was a slip down, probably because it's half the size, and also because it's kind of confusing, especially in the end. But we are shown that that Thor has gone to Niflheim to fight the Queen of Cinders, who has taken over Niflheim, and it is the first battleground of Malekith's War for the Nine Realms. So all of the Odinson brothers, Tyr, Balder, Thor, and Loki have come together to save Niflheim, and they're met by Karnilla and the Executioner as well, and they're going to fight this Queen of Cinders, who apparently is the daughter of Surtur, who is trying to amass an army of people in Niflheim, and one of them basically says, "No, you don't belong here. Many people have tried to take over Niflheim, you will not." And then he promptly gets his head chopped off. And the rest, like, most of this issue is action, like, from start to finish, but the middle just takes a giant turn. And we get this double page spread, this, like, 2 pages of just pure dialogue, and it seems pointless. It's basically just them saying, "I don't trust Loki," and then later on Loki tells Thor to tells Thor not to trust Tyr. I'm not sure why, but tells him not to trust Tyr. And it's implied, or it's shown, that Thor has, like, Thor is basically God Hawkeye. He has different hammers for different uses, and one of them is a bomb hammer that he uses to blow up the tracks for this train that's holding a lot of the Queen of Cinders army. And eventually, and as these two, Thor and Tyr decide to go down to find this vault with a new ally inside, and inside the vault is Hela and Fenris. And the confusing thing about this is that apparently next issue, one of the Odinson brothers is going to be marrying Hela, or it's very much implied that one of the Odinson brothers is going to be marrying Hela. But the thing that I find confusing about that is it's said in the comic that Hela is the daughter of Loki. So if Hela's the daughter of Loki, doesn't that make her both Balder and Thor her uncle? That means the uncle's marrying the niece, which is wrong. And, you know, Jason Aaron, I hope you don't do that in the next issue. Please don't do that in the next issue. Please don't have Thor marry his niece. Just have us, like, just say, oh, it's the Executioner. He's getting married to Hela for some reason. Hey, next issue we have to talk about is Black Panther #2. A lot of number 2s this week. But yeah, Black Panther #2 is actually really enjoyable. We're getting into the books that I actually enjoyed. So the last issue, Black Panther got picked up by this well, basically Black Panther was in a slave like service. He was being used as a slave for this empire of Wakandans in space, and he's still in space, but it's 2 years on from the first issue, and Black Panther's now a trained fighter pilot, and he's kind of showing off in this fight with the Empire's like ships, and it is very reminiscent of like a dogfight from Star Wars. It's kind of Black Panther's own like Star Wars scene, and this lasts a large chunk of the comic, and when this all ends, we finally get a glimpse of the villain of this arc, and it's basically the Gold Panther. But it's not Eric Killmonger as you would think after seeing the movie. It's someone completely different, and he looks to have, I don't know if that's like the symbiote or if it's like some shadow. It looks very much like the symbiote, but it also looks like it's his cape. But it could be a different variation of a symbiote. But apparently there's no, the third issue doesn't come out until August, so we're not going to have an issue of Black Panther this month. So I'm not too fussed, but I won't miss it. But if the next issue is as interesting as this, then who knows. But this issue was really enjoyable. I liked the dogfight. I liked that it reminded me of Star Wars quite a bit, and the villain reveal at the end was both interesting and kind of dumbfounded me a bit, because I didn't know if the cape was, if it was like a mystical cape, or if it was like a symbiote. So yeah, that kind of dumbfounded me a bit. Maybe because I don't know a lot about Black Panther. That might be why I didn't quite catch the villain's thingamabob. But hang on. Next up we have Hunt Wolverine, Mystery in Madripoor. This is how to do a tie-in comic. We basically have it that half of the team has been, so in the last issue the team got defeated and half of them have been captured by the Femme Fatales. And I like the start of this, where they kind of have like the impact that Wolverine has had on an individual member of the team. So in the last issue we had Psylocke. In this issue we have Kitty Pryde. And it's basically shown that Kitty Pryde learned all of her honor and her fighting skills and everything that she knows from Wolverine. So the 3 remaining members of this female X-Men team, Domino, Jubilee, and what's her face, Kitty Pryde, escape through the sewers, and it's shown that the villains have Magneto held captive, and yeah, the villains have Magneto held captive, and it's all like a big scheme from Madam Viper, but it's shown that someone else is pulling the strings. And basically the rest of it is just the team, or the remainders of the team that haven't been captured, going on a undercover mission, trying to find out where the rest of their team is being held. And, you know, Wolverine shows up at the end, because it's a Hunt for Wolverine tie-in comic and he has to be in it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed it. That's not a word, idiot. No, I really liked this. It was really good. I'm excited for the next issue. I like to see where this goes. Probably into Finding Wolverine, you know, because it's called Hunt for Wolverine. Next up we have Captain America #1, and I think you can guess what I'm going to say about this. Mark Waid's run on Captain America was some of the worst comic books that I've ever read. It was a terrible run. It was so bad. I am happy and delighted to report that Captain America #1 by Ta-Nehisi Coates is a decent, good comic book story. Not too centered on politics, even though Ta-Nehisi Coates is doing the brave thing and actually biting the bullet, grabbing the bull by the horns, and saying, look, we know we messed up with the Secret Empire. I'm going to amend the mistakes of Nick Spencer and clean up his mess. And we start off with Captain America fighting these nuke clones, this army of nuke clones. He dispatches them quite quickly. And then, yeah, it's kind of, and then we see the fight is over, and General Ross shows up. The only thing that I can kind of say that is confusing about this is why is Sharon Carter drawn like she's the same age as General Ross. I'm gonna try and find a, like, you look at Sharon Carter there. Did something happen that I missed? Like, it says in the comic that she's like trapped in an older woman's body, but I didn't realize, like, how long was she trapped in Dimension Z? She looks like Aunt May. Like, that's the only problem, and I guess that's the problem with all of Lionel Francis Yu's art, is that everyone looks older than they're supposed to be, because he does put a lot of lines in, and he does accentuate a lot of stuff. But I guess it's not as bad. It's not as bad here as it is some other times. But yeah, the story is really good. There's some stuff with Selene, which I didn't expect her to show up in a Captain America comic, and I'm really excited to see where this goes. But Ta-Nehisi Coates is doing a really good job with the two books that he's got. Like, between this and Black Panther, he is doing really well at Marvel. I don't quite care for what he's said in the past. The point is, he can write a damn good comic book, and that's all I care about. Next issue I'm going to be talking about is the Sentry, #1, and this was damn good. It's very slow, but despite in something like the Immortal Hulk, where I didn't like it being slow, this works to its favor because it introduces every character, and because the Sentry isn't a character that everyone would necessarily know, it takes the time to kind of show the reader, or to like tell the reader like nitty-gritty details about who is the Sentry, who is Bob Reynolds or Robert Reynolds, and what exactly can he do, how powerful is he, and it shows how powerful he is. So basically, Sentry Robert Reynolds can't turn into Sentry in the real world because if he does, then there's a chance that he could unleash the Void, which is this kind of like trans-dimensional being of like omnipotence that could destroy like everything in like a matter of seconds. Like, think Thanos from Infinity War, times that by 10, add Galactus, add every Celestial, then times that by 10 again. That's the Void. Yet somehow it was beaten by Spider-Man in Siege. At least I think it was beaten by Spider-Man in Siege. The only problem that I had with this is the art. At first it looked quite good. Like when it's far away it looks quite good, but then you have panels like that where everyone looks like they're on drugs. And then when it gets to the real, like, present day, like in the real world, he draws everyone with the longest face. Like, long face, really long face. Again, super long face. Like, that's the only kind of problem that I have. I would have loved Brian Hitch to draw this, as well as just doing the cover, because his art style would really have worked with the tone of this book. But yeah, it's really good. And yeah, if you're not picking up Sentry, pick it up. It's only one issue in, so yeah, pick up Sentry. It's damn good. And my pick of the week, if you saw my haul video, you've probably guessed it by now. Venom, #3. For 3 weeks running, 3 issues running, this book has continuously been my pick of the week. And it damn well deserves to be. this is so good. There's like the other books were good. This is leagues above everything that came before. So I'm going to take a lot of time on this. I don't care that I've been talking for half an hour. I could talk for days about how much I've been loving Venom and how much I loved this issue. So we see that the Venom suit has once again been infected by being near this like symbiote god, and he's currently in the middle of a fight with Miles Morales, and unlike in The Incredible Hulk with Amadeus Cho, Miles Morales is actually a likable character here, and there's actually reason for him being here. So they have a fight. It doesn't last very long, and Miles Morales is basically like, you killed my mother, I will make you pay. And then Eddie's like, no, that wasn't me. It may have been a symbiote, it may have been a Venom from a world, but it was not me from my world. And so they decide to team up to fight this symbiote god who has taken the form of a dragon, and all-out carnage ensues. And the dragon, basically Miles Morales gets thrown into the dragon's mouth, and Venom blasts it. So the dragon then shrinks down to a regular, like, not a regular man, but he's human size and humanoid now. And he doesn't, and Eddie and all these all these other people are like telling him to stand down. Like the military's there, they're telling him to stand down, telling him to like put his hands behind his head. He's not having any of it. He then commands his symbiote to like literally pinch a helicopter, like, and squash it as if it were an ant. So Venom just lunges in to fight him, and it doesn't do anything. He just phases through, and the symbiote is ripped off of Eddie, and goes towards this this mysterious character, and Eddie's talking to this character, but he's not really paying any attention. He's talking to the symbiote, and then he turns the symbiote back into its like primordial state, and basically says, I am Null, Lord of the Abyss, God of the Symbiotes. And that's it. That's the end of the issue, and bloody hell, Donny Cates, you are a mastermind. This is the book that every Marvel book should strive to be. Of all the books that Marvel's getting right, why is Venom the one that's at the top? Why is Venom the one that's constantly good? Like, every other storyline, every other thing has had, every other series that I've read has had dips. Be it this is only issue 3, but for all 3 issues, all 3 have been my pick of the week. That is testament enough to how good this series is. So go out, pick up Venom if you're not picking it up already. But apparently a lot of people are, because it's selling pretty well. So a lot of people have heard that it's damn good. And it's practically perfect. Apart from the fact that it's retconning almost anything, almost everything. And it's kind of retconning the whole Flash Thompson era, where the symbiote can be like morphed and controlled by the host, which again retconned the time when Spider-Man donned the suit, where it was kind of taking over his mind. He was controlling it. But you know, if you're gonna retcon something, you might as well do it well, and Donny Cates is definitely doing it well in Venom. So those are all of the books that I picked up this week. It was a damn good week, and it's very difficult to narrow down which ones were going to be like. It was easy to see the bottom and the top, but the middle were all like constantly shuffling. And yeah, it was a really good week this week, probably because it had last week's as well mixed in. I'm not quite sure. I think this week there will be a comic book haul video coming up and a comic book review video, but I'm going to be out of this room soon because the wall behind me is not going to be there much longer. So I'm going to have to take all of my stuff and I will be going back in the front room or the kitchen. Or I might have to set up my own studio in the attic. But that's unlikely because there's no floor. So, who knows? So, I best be off. I will see you next week. Wherever that may be, whenever that may be. I wanna like eat some more weird food for Boy Eats, because that playlist needs to have some more stuff added to it. So again, I am pleading to you, those of you who watch to the end of the video, please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, share the video with your family and friends, hit the notification bell if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next week. But until then, till all are one, peace.